Alright, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from the Victory Brewing Company, and they're out of Downingtown, Pennsylvania, and this is their Cold Front, and this is a part of their small batch series. So they're calling this one a Cold IPA that comes in at 7% alcohol by volume, no IBUs listed in time of review, and this can is just over 5 weeks old. So this is the second of two winter seasonal IPAs that Victory has released recently. The other one I have reviewed on the channel a couple weeks ago was their Fruitful IPA, and basically it was an IPA brewed with natural fruit flavors. It was okay. Not my favorite. The fruit character in the beer came off a little bit too candied and artificial for my liking, so I'm hoping I enjoy this one a bit more. Now, this is a Cold IPA. I've talked about Cold IPA, the style itself recently over the past couple months on the channel. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's read the back though. It says Victory's Cold Front IPA, the newest small batch release, is a cold IPA at 7% ABV brewed with Mosaic, Chinook, and Amarillo hops. The temps drop and cold air gusts, but the sun shines through this cold IPA with light bursts of pineapple, orange, and grapefruit notes rounded out by a hint of pine. Okay, very generic tasting notes for the most part, but you know, cold IPAs, one of those styles that a lot of people say, isn't that an IPL? Isn't that like just like a top forward Kolsch? Kind of, but not exactly. I guess what the original brewery wanted to do with this, I forget the original brewery who brewed a cold IPA, but what they really wanted to do was kind of make a more crisp and clean kind of like West Coast IPA, let the hops shine, you know, on a nice malt base, but not have the malt impart a lot of flavor. So these are basically, you know, like IPLs where instead of a lager with hops, it's a hop forward beer with like a lager feel, right? A lot of them aren't brewed at lager temperatures, they're not fermented at lager temperatures, but they will use a lager yeast. So it's very interesting. I've had about 6 to 8 of them and I reviewed a couple on the channel. Very interesting style. The acronym IPA sells, so that's kind of why you got Cold IPA at this point, I think. So yeah, the clarity is, this looks honestly like a lager. This does not look like a West Coast IPA or IPA of any sort, even old school, maybe like an old school pale ale. Crystal clear. On camera, it might look a little darker. In person, I'm telling you, this looks like a lager. It's crystal clear and has like that yellow, you know, just straw kind of golden color to it. Had about a finger of a bright white head that is now displayed to a small film. So yeah, we'll see. Let's get nose. Oh, that smells awesome. Yeah, so candied citrus, but not candied like the Fruitful IPA where it was like artificial. It's like just sweeter, almost condensed sweetness of the fruits. I'm getting orange, pink grapefruit, a little bit of stone fruit too, like a peach, maybe a mango, a little bit of pineapple. There's a touch of pine, like a resinous pine, maybe more of a floral essence to it. But yeah, there's a malt base here that kind of screams, it's bready, like white bread. It doesn't necessarily smell exactly like a lager or like an IPL, but it has the consistency in the nose is something that is similar or akin to an IPL to me. But yeah, it smells really good. It smells like a fruit-forward, kind of old school American IPA that's going to be a little bit more crisp and clean on the palate. And I think that's kind of what they're going for, so I'm here for it. Let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. Right from the get-go, this is way better than the Fruitful IPA. So if you watch this review and the Fruitful IPA review, if you like more classic beers, more classic IPAs, grab this over the Fruitful. This doesn't have that natural flavor thing that can come off artificial or too candied. Like this is just a regular, you know, like hop forward beer. Buying this is medium, you touch over, nice body on it. The mouthfeel, it definitely has a lager-esque kind of mouthfeel to it. It's crisp, it's clean, really spritzy on the palate. It's refreshing. Yeah, the body mouthfeel really nice. The taste, this does taste like an old school IPA blended with like an IPL or blended with a lager. It really does. You don't get like, sometimes you get the sulfur note from a lager in the taste. Sometimes you get in the nose. Really not getting that here. And that was another thing that I remember reading is that they said that specifically they want to make sure there's no sulfur notes in the beer for a cold IPA. So right at the forefront, it's white bread, dips underneath with you the entire time. And the malts are just propping up all the hop character. The hop character is, again, all that citrus. It's led for me by pink grapefruit. There's a little bit of orange and tangerine. As it passes through, a pop of like a lemon hits as well. like a lemon rind. Then it morphs into like a peach, mango, stone fruit vibe. And then finally, Scotia of pineapple hits like midway through the palate. Then it transitions into this really nice piney, floral, resinous bitterness on the back of the palate. This is moderately bitter with a semi-dry to full-on dry finish. If anything, this leans bitter as opposed to sweet. It has that West Coast kind of IPA feel to it, or old school East Coast IPA, where you definitely get a firm bitterness on the palate. 7%, can't really taste it. There might be a little bit of a warming into the chest, which is, kind of strange for 7%, but a lot of old school beers, when I was drinking beers, 8, 10, 12 years ago, you would get sometimes alcohol astringency or feel it in the chest at 7 or 8%. Nowadays, breweries do such a great job hiding it. But like for me, I'm getting a little bit of it right now. Yeah, this is, again, so I understand where the cold IPA style is coming from. For me, is it so substantial you need to call it a cold IPA as opposed to an IPL or like a hop forward Kolsch or something? I don't think so, but as we know with beer, the acronym IPA sells, and whether it's a black IPA or a red IPA or a white IPA or a brewed IPA or a sour IPA, when you hear those 3 letters IPA, sells. It really does. So when it comes down to it, I get what cold IPAs are. I do actually enjoy the style. I just don't necessarily know if it should be called cold IPA. But who am I? I'm just a random dude on YouTube that doesn't know a whole lot, so whatever, don't listen to me. I'm gonna pour the rest of this in, and then we're gonna score it, but I'll tell you right now, this is pretty good. Is this the best cold IPA I've had so far? It's up there. Again, I've had like 6 to 8, and I think I've only reviewed like 3 or 4, but this might be up there as like one of my favorite cold IPAs. So Victory's Cold Front, their cold IPA, one of their newest winter seasonal releases. I have no issues giving this beer right here a high 4 out of 5. I'm gonna go 4.05 out of 5. I think that's where this lands. I think it's pretty damn good. I would say this, if you see this, and you can buy a single can of it, or you've been enjoying the cold IPA style, grab it. Price and availability, I got this in a mixed sixer at my local Wakeman's grocery store. Those are $12.99 for a 6-pack, so just over $2 a can. But I believe they also had 4 packs of this, and it was $13.99. So you're talking, $3.50 a can for something like this. I'd say it's worth it. Victory, wherever you see Victory, and I know they get distribution to a bunch of different states. I just don't know exactly how far some of these small batch releases go. So if you do see some of their small batch releases locally, then you should see this at some point. Like I said, I'm reviewing it right now. It's just over 5 weeks old. You probably see this about 6 weeks old as I post the review. Still drinking quite well. This is probably going to last for at least 2 months, if not 3, and probably still pack a huge punch in terms of the hop character in this beer. So if you've had this one before, post in the comment section. Let me know what you think about it. We'll pose another question. What do you think about the cold IPA style? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you think it's a necessity as far as a new style goes? Should there be a cold IPA style? I guess at the end of the day, there's so many styles, it really doesn't matter. It's just for me. I know why these brewers are calling them cold IPAs. I get it. It's marketing and whatever. Hopefully I get to drink some awesome ones going forward. Anyway, to the next one. Cheers.